Hello everyone, welcome to English 123, Week 1. We're going to get started talking about the initial stages of our research project, the very first steps of developing a research paper, starting with the topic, determining the topic, going through and selecting sources, and then this information will pertain to the actual research and drafting of the paper later on. But initially we'd start out with, what do we want to write about? Where do we want to start? And typically it starts with us, our own interest. What are we passionate about? What are you passionate about in terms of maybe uh, things that you want to see changed, or things that you want to see more of in our society, in our country, in our world. It could be a number of different things. The possibilities are endless, really, and that can be a good thing, but it can also be difficult, because then you have to kind of sift through and think about, what is a good topic to write about? What do I really want to pursue in this paper? So it really comes down to your interest initially, and then you narrow that down and you work on that and you refine that to actually become a claim or a argument or a thesis statement. So right now, though, we're just going to work on the actual subject or topic that we're going to start with. Okay, and the other part of this video will be discussing initially the idea of scholarly sources or credible sources, which kind of coincides with topic development. They do kind of play off of one another. They do contribute to one another. They do affect one another. Sources that you find can shape the topic that you take. The topic that you take shapes what sources you're going to need. So there's a give and take with each of these two topics. Okay, so first, developing your topic. So what I would like you to do is, just basically find a notebook or some paper to write with, and begin to, if you haven't already, begin to list out some things, some subjects that are interesting to you. And they can be a number of different things. Any academic interest you have, any political interest you have, philosophical interest you have, of course, theological, doctrinal, any church-related, any faith-related interests you have, of course. Any municipal issues in your own community, in your own city, in your own state. Any issues pertaining to the country itself. Anything pertaining to the world in terms of environment, maybe, climate. Uh, so those are just different contexts. Think about. There's us, there's our community, our neighborhood, our state, our country, the world. And of course, those larger contexts do broaden a topic, and sometimes, oftentimes, a broad topic is very difficult to deal with. So we just want to refine and work towards something that's narrowed down, but it's okay to start out big. Like if you want to start something with what's the world issue in terms of, say, pollution, that's fine. You'll need to narrow it down into a specific context, but it's okay to start with pollution or climate change or something like that. Global warming or something. Now, those are just common, large, hot-button issues that typically come up in a composition class. Or it could be something within the United States. It could be capital punishment. That's another hot-button, broad topic, but that affects our country. But it's, what about that subject is what you're really going to narrow down to. So, but just start out listing things that interest you, things that you find yourself passionate about, and then maybe begin to prioritize them in numerical order, beginning with what you would rather start with writing about on down to the least, right? Because what will happen is, it's possible that the very first thing that you want to write about, the number one thing, may not work out. And it's important to be flexible, and it's important to have a backup plan for your research, because if your number one topic, if there's no controversy, if there's no debatable issue over that, chances are you're not going to find sources. And if you can't find sources, then it's not going to work as a research paper, because there's no research behind it. And we're not in the business in this class of doing original research or doing original academia. We're working with existing academia, existing sources that scholars and researchers have already established. So we want to find the arguments that the experts have already published and have already begun with, so are already established for us. So as you develop that list, or maybe it's even a brainstorming bubble chart or some kind of charting system that you are familiar with for brainstorming. There's different brainstorming ideas. You can Google different strategies for brainstorming and find one that works best with your learning strategy or your temperament, and utilize that. But the point is to get things on paper, not to keep everything in your head and try to remember, okay, I got these 10 topics, which one do I want to work with? Get everything on paper. You can get it out of your head and pour it out on paper. You might even do a free write if you choose to do some kind of narrative about it. The topic that I want to deal with the most is this, and this is why, and this is how. Any ideas you may have, as far as you want to take it, as far as how much time you have, be mindful of that. But it's up to you. Whatever your individual strategy would be, whatever your individual taste or however you want to approach that is fine. But as long as it boils down to some kind of list or grouping of ideas or topics, okay, that's what's most important. That we can begin to narrow down and eliminate and then come up with one single topic for you to pursue and to develop a claim or a thesis statement about. Okay. So once you have that list or group of ideas and you've determined which one you want to go with first, maybe this will work well. Do a Google search if you use Google or some other search engine, and do a web search for your first topic the number one that you chose. See what's out there. What are people saying about this? Let me give you an example. One broad topic would be that we've dealt with in another class is mass incarceration. Google search mass incarceration. You're going to get a lot of different ideas, a lot of different things coming up, a lot of different subtopics or subsets of that one topic. So, for instance, with mass incarceration, you have women prison, you have men's prison, you have juvenile prison, you have controversies over correctional versus penal uh, uh, penalties. Is this a correctional environment or is this a punishment environment? You have issues of capital punishment, methods of capital punishment. You have issues of prosecution, fair prosecution, due process. Is it, do we really have a true, fair, and equitable due process system in place? You can argue whichever side you want to take on that. There's also issues of medical care for prisoners, mental health for prisoners, not easy, but early release for prisoners, overpopulation, crowded prisons. You get the idea. So there's a number of different subtopics within that main topic of mass incarceration. Another idea would be something you can look at: student loans. Okay, there is a significant proportion of our population is affected by student loans, and there's controversy over the efficacy of how student loans are dealt with. Should college tuition should lenders be charging capitalized interest on loans that are being deferred, or should all interest be uh, subsidized? Something like that. There's different aspects of student loans that you can look at. Capitalized interest. Should everyone qualify for a student loan? Should student loans be given a point of forgiveness, debt forgiveness? How should debt forgiveness be administered, or how should it be granted? Should there be a credit report for student loans? Should this be given to anyone that needs it, or should there really be a strong criteria for it? Different ideas for that. So you understand the idea is there's different subsets and subtopics for that overall general idea of student loans. So that's what we're going to be working towards, is taking a subject and narrowing it down and refining it to a specific argument on a specific topic. Okay? So once you've done a general web search, what controversy is out there for that? If there's no controversy, chances are it's not going to be a good topic to deal with. So maybe move on to the next one, number two, number three, go down through the process and just kind of get an idea of which one came out as being the most controversial. I don't mean controversy in a bad way, but the most debated, the most argued, and then maybe note that, and maybe that is the one that you want to pursue if you choose to. So typically, the one that has the most controversy can usually typically be the one that you're going to find the most research on. Okay, so from that you want to move into really looking at the databases through the Annie-Gabriel library and seeing what the scholars are saying about that particular controversy. The experts or the scholars have likely done research on that. They've likely produced, actually published papers on that that are extensively scrutinized for their credibility. So you're going to find credible sources through the Annie-Gabriel library to support or to determine the controversy of your particular topic. Okay, so remember, it's something that has a debatable, two-sided issue. Okay, so as you go into Annie-Gabriel library website and you bring up, say, the one search. Okay, it's usually the first thing you see is one search. You're gonna put in your topic and hit search, or hit search, and you're gonna find probably 1,000 different articles on that. But within that, you're going to find keywords that you can search to further refine that search, to find further, to find more specific sources for your topic. So I would suggest you kind of experiment with the databases through the Annie-Gabriel library. You're going to be spending a lot of time in that database. There's really good tutorials available to you to watch to really guide you through that process of finding the sources that you need. The key idea to think here is there's two different types of sources. One is scholarly sources. The other is, I would say, consumable or consumer sources. Consumer sources or consumable sources are the sources that you would find online. That'd be magazine articles, anecdotal information, really. Magazine articles, blogs, anything from anything that's really a .com on the internet is a consumable source. It's not a scholarly source in the sense that it's not backed up by a criteria, an academic criteria for academic credibility. Okay, it's not reviewed by any board. It's just published by whoever it might be. It could be Time Magazine. It could be CNN. It could be Fox News. It could be the Huffington Post. It could be Wikipedia. So all of those are just consumable or consumer-focused sources. And I say consumer, meaning anyone that wants to just kind of browse and read information can find it and can have access to it. There's no paid subscription to it. It's just go online and it's free. You can read about whatever you want about that particular topic, but we can't be sure of the accuracy and the validity of what's being presented, because chances are, typically, there's a biased view behind what's being presented, and there's a paid, there's typically advertising and money behind what's being presented online. So the motives aren't necessarily academically, it's not necessarily academically motivated for those sources that you're finding on the internet, for a .com or even a .net, or even particularly a .org for that matter. .gov can be useful for statistics and facts, say for like government statistics and things like that. But .org, .com, .net are questionable. They can be used, but they're only used for anecdotal reasons, really, illustrative reasons. And they do work well for illustrations and introductions and things like that, but not for really credible, strong support. Now, scholarly sources, on the other hand, from the databases, the Annie-Gabriel Library and the university pays thousands of dollars for subscriptions to these journals where PhD professors, experts in the field that have basically devoted their lives to studying that particular subject or topic have written and published these articles that are not self-published, They're not published by any independent organization for the purposes of just the ordinary consumer and the population. It is published by a specific university that takes years and years of scrutiny to approve the publishing of a single article or a book. So there is a vetting process that goes in place. It's called peer review articles, peer edited peer review articles. So that is very important to the credibility of the sources that you're going to be looking for. So you want to find peer reviewed articles from academic journals, academically credible publishers from the university. Cambridge University, Cambridge Press, or Johns Hopkins Press, or Harvard Press, or University of Chicago Press. These universities publish articles that their scholars have written, and they are they're stringently vetted and scrutinized. So we can we can generally trust them. Now that's not to say that every single academic article that's written does not have a bias. There is potential for bias in academic articles, and we can see that with some of the views that particularly conflict with a creationist view. Creation versus evolution. There's certainly a bias for articles that are written for an evolutionary view that would be hostile towards a creationist view. So that's one example. But generally speaking, the articles and the sources you'll find in the databases will be credible and will be trustworthy and usable for your topic. So you want to experiment with the databases and finding sources, and that's going to be really the main idea here. So looking for those journal articles that are peer-reviewed and peer-edited. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, please email me. I can further elaborate on this, and you're going to find more information about this in your textbook, and you can find that through the Annie Gabriel Library as well. Plenty of tutorials and videos for you to review. But again, any further questions, definitely let me know. I'm always willing to answer your questions. All right. Well, thank you for your time and watching the video, and you have a great day, and God bless you on your work throughout the week. Thank you.